Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Matt Menashes, the Executive Director of the National Genealogical Society, and thank you all coming to this, what I call in my head, ultra special event. This is the first sort of symposium that NGS has hosted on an issue that is outside of the normal genealogical sphere. So welcome to the Symposium on Healthy Aging and the Role of the Family History Community as we explore a nexus between family history and healthy aging. I am so pleased to be here with all of you and the room and all of you watching on Zoom today from afar. I am here today with my colleagues Rick Voigt and Ed Donachie. Rick is the CEO of VividPix, and Ed Donachie is the Deputy Chief Genealogical Officer at Family Search and a member of the NGS board. And unfortunately, they got to serve as my co-chairs for this symposium. They still regret it to this day. So I will introduce Rick and Ed in a moment, but I wanted to first go through what our agenda is for today. We're going to make some opening remarks here in a moment, followed by Sherry Rose and Charlotte Yeh on aging well. Welcome, Sherry and Charlotte. And then we'll go into our three panels this afternoon. We are filming live, and between the panels, we will break for 5 minutes as we switch panelists up here. So just be patient. We're not going to take a break until a little bit later. We'll have a 15-minute break, but there will be a couple of 5-minute breaks while we switch panels. Then we will be doing short Q&As with each panel and then saving the final Q&A towards the end of the session. And then we'll have some closing remarks from myself and Rick and Ed. So again, welcome to Louisville. Welcome to the Healthy Aging Symposium, and thank you all for being here. As I said, I'm Matt Menashes, and the reason Rick and Ed and I decided this would be an amazing symposium for us to host is each one of us in different ways has experienced the caregiving role for a family member. This is a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts as not only genealogists, but as human beings. We have experienced everything from, in my case, the loss of my grandfather's memory from the age of, I believe he was 78 until he passed from Alzheimer's at the age of 85. You can see in this picture on your screen, my grandfather is the fella, the shorter fella with the very large boxing gloves. If you can imagine trying to fight wearing boxing gloves like that now, the prevalence of injuries, brain injuries to boxers might be less than it currently is. But my grandfather, we can't specifically ascribe his Alzheimer's disease or his dementia to his youth as a fighter, but we can certainly guess that it probably contributed. My grandfather's experience as an Alzheimer's patient was atypical. At 78, we noticed his slow decline, and then the progression was very rapid. And my mother, my grandmother, my father, myself, my sister, in particular my grandmother, were caregivers for him for quite a long time, to the point where my grandmother used to joke that she was his voice. And I think many of you who have experienced this condition or some of these conditions have experienced the same thing. And ultimately, we lost my grandfather to almost complete loss of memory and ability to identify himself, but he would talk to the man in the mirror. Who was Mr. Pease? It was not him. So sort of an atypical dementia and Alzheimer's case. But that is why I am involved in this issue and why I think it's so important for all of us, as no matter what sector we represent, whether it's the genealogical sector or the finance sector or the IT sector, everyone in this country needs to be involved in helping support healthy aging as our population grows and the cases of dementia increase across the United States. So with that, I want to turn it over to Rick Voigt, who has a few words to share as well. Rick?
So for those of you who don't know me, I never use notes. I always kind of wing it. But I don't feel comfortable doing that this afternoon. Mom and my stepfather drove down to Florida, and Mom's meds went on a whack. She showed signs of advanced dementia. We got her meds back in line, but we saw the future. Why do we, Vivid Pics, use the phrase, "Don't let your memories fade"? We have limited time for so many things. Don't let time slip to secure treasured memories and to have one more conversation. So, Mom, we've got an old photo album here, and I would love to have you explain to me and other lucky viewers to explain to me what's inside of here, some of the people, and all that fun stuff. So what are we looking at?
We're looking at two Jocelyn girls. We're looking at Lois and Beverly.
Wow, cool.
And Lois is 5 years older than Beverly. And this is in the buggy. And this is on the farm. Esmond.
Wow.
This is on Grandma's porch. This is Beverly and Byron. And this is Lois and Beverly and Byron on the porch.
Wow. Okay, so I hope you don't mind me aging you here. Can I age you here? Okay, so you are 87 years old?
Yes, I'm 87.
This is 2018, and you look like you're probably pretty young in that picture.
I think so. Maybe a year old.
Maybe a year old?
That just says.
Scribble. Cool. Okay.
Mhm. And just a little bit in
Okay, page 2.
page 2. You're there too?
I do. So a little bit. I really see the resemblance. So I suggest that the most important family history activity is to secure the knowledge from those that currently have the knowledge. Equally so, we all hold knowledge. We need to make sure that we capture our own stories. And what's great about this activity is that it has health and social benefits. And you get to spend emotional, beneficial time with your loved ones. Ed?
It's interesting as the three of us talked and considered this opportunity. My children have two different paradigms with their grandparents. My father and mother died in their 50s and 60s, respectively. Their health was strong and vibrant. However, my wife's parents had a little bit different track. My father-in-law, a world-renowned pianist, passed away at 85, but we saw his mind slipping away, and there was dementia in the family. It was at the point where he was forgetting people, and that's not unusual, but forgetting very important aspects of his life. And the family worked with them, and he had excellent doctors, but it slowly slipped away, and it was heartbreaking to see. He went from playing very difficult pieces on the piano to the old, comfortable ones that meant so much to the family. Now, I look at that compared then to his dear wife, who lived until she was 98 and continued to work on family history and genealogy throughout her life. And when she passed, we felt sad that there was still so much that she had to offer us. And we spent years, including putting together a wonderful biography on the two of them. But as we talked, we thought we need to encourage people to understand that there are tools, both known and yet to be developed and revealed, that can help the aging generation. And so we've gathered together a panel, 3 different panels actually, of scholars and individuals that are experts in these communities. And we look forward to talking with them. And as you know, we've prepped for this, but they have a lot to share. And so we're grateful for those that are here, as well as those that will be listening to this in the future and those that are online right now for the broadcast. So following me, we have Sherry Rose and Charlotte Ye. I'll let them introduce themselves, and we'll go from there on into the panel. So, Sherry.
Good afternoon. You know, I wish you all could have been at the Thrive Center, and I'll talk a little bit about the Thrive Center and why we created it. But I'm Sherry Rose. I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Thrive Center here in Louisville. Originally, when Rick and Matt had reached out to me, we were going to have this at our new center that's under construction. Unfortunately, with construction delays, as I'm sure you're aware of, we're not ready and we couldn't host this conference. But I'm going to invite you all to come back because I want you to see what we are recreating. So we established the Thrive Center back in 2017. We opened up to the public, and we learned a lot from when we opened up the center. And we focused really on the things that impact us as we age. And 2 of our biggest themes are mobility and also brain health. And when we look at brain health and dementia, 55 million across the world and 6.9 million here in the US, we realize we've got a big undertaking to help in this area. And when we look at what's spent on dementia, and this is family caregivers who are also losing work, it's a $1.6 trillion economy because we're looking at having to take care of our loved ones. Like these gentlemen, I lost my father to brain cancer at the age of 61. He was a Marine in World War II. And I didn't capture all those stories that I wish I could have, but it just sprung on us at the last minute. And then I lost my mother to Alzheimer's in 2019. And I was in the process of developing the Thrive Center, and I wanted it to be that experience center where people could come in and see and touch the technologies that can really impact the lives of individuals. And that's what we wanted to create, not a trade show floor. My background was in tech, but I also have a master's and bachelor's in psychology. I stopped short of a doctorate because that was at the time that we discovered my dad had brain cancer. And then I got pregnant, and it's like, well, it's time to develop a family. So that cut me short, but I never lost my passion for people. And so this gave me an opportunity to merge technology with my passion for people and really give it a purpose so that people could actually have one place to go and see multiple solutions that could really transform quality of life and quality of care. And so in the process of developing the Thrive Center, I thought I knew a lot, but I'm going to tell you, nothing teaches you like being a caregiver. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from my mother. And the day I got the call from the police to say she had wandered off, I thought that would never happen, not to me. And 6:30 in the morning, I get a call. And I go down to her condo because I live very close to her, and I was her primary caregiver. And I'm like, what happened? And we still to this day don't know who found her. but she wandered outside of her condo with her walker, locked herself out, and 6:30 in the morning, cold. Someone found her, put some socks on her feet, called the police. They called me, and she was delivering Avon. And I thought, Avon. She hadn't sold Avon since we were little kids, but she went back in time and she had to get that Avon to whoever she was delivering it. And but it scared her because it's that period of fog. And then she came to herself, and from that point, she was scared to even approach the door. And so I thought, now I've got a safety issue I have to address. And later on, we'll talk about some of the technologies and how you can stage those technologies. But, further into the Alzheimer's as it progressed, I remember her always gathering her covers. And I thought, well, she's cold. So I would try to cover him up. I would straighten him up. I would cover her feet. It's like, Mom, you're going to get cold. And then when she was actually admitted into hospice care, she was doing the same thing in the skilled nursing facility. And she was gathering those covers, and she handed them to me one day, and she wanted me to put them on the food cart. And I'm like, no, you can't. That's where your food goes. I can't put them on there. You need to cover yourself up. And probably within the last week of her life, one of the CNAs walked in, and he looked at her and said, "What are you doing?" And she was nonverbal at this point. And she looked at him and she said, "I'm making you a coat." She was sewing. And she went, and she was a seamstress. She made a lot of clothes. We were a family of 6, and she made a lot of clothes when we were growing up. And she went back and gathered those memories from far back. And then the second thing that really got me thinking about it was she had someone that hit her in a parking lot and totaled her car. And I thought she was fine at this point. I wasn't picking up on the dementia setting in. And so we ended up getting her another car, just like the one that was wrecked, and we're driving around, and she would never drive after that because she couldn't understand that the gear shift wasn't on the column. And I thought, she's going back in time. And so it started to hit me. It's like, I'm going down this road of dementia with my parent. But, I have to tell you, we can talk about dementia, we can share our stories, but until you've been a caregiver, nothing teaches you. And I will encourage you, and I've talked to Rick about this, capture those memories early, because it is reminiscence as they get older. And I wished I'd captured a lot of things prior to her passing, because I looked at the old pictures and the old albums that were glued, and it's like, what am I going to do now? And so I will stop there. We'll talk more about the tech, but this is a passion of mine, and I know it is for Charlotte as well. Charlotte is a good friend. I've known her for years, and she's a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you so much. I do love the stories. So I'm Charlotte Ye, and my background, I'm an emergency physician, which is really an incredible barometer of health and the community and people in moments of crisis. So I love that. And now I'm actually, for the almost a year, I'm an active consultant in um, aging the way you want to. How do we get there? What is going to give us a healthy life to thrive the way we want to live? And that was really based on my nearly 17 years as the chief medical officer at AARP, really diving into what is aging all about. So I have to tell you, I am so privileged and honored to be here, and I'm so excited about this opportunity. How can we bring the science of genealogy, and how can we bring the family stories? And what connection could that possibly have to healthy aging? So we'll talk more about that in our next panel. But to set the stage, we do have to understand what is aging now. And I'm here to tell you, aging today is not the way you aged or how our grandmothers aged or our great grandmothers aged. It is very different. So, for example, when Medicare was passed and 65 was set as the age when Medicare would start, that's because our average lifespan was about 67. Nowadays, 85 and older is the fastest growing population. 100 and older is the second fastest growing population. And oh, by the way, the Department of Labor says that there's only one age band that's going to grow in the civilian workforce between now and 2030. And guess what that is? It's not the 30 something, 40 something, 50. It is actually 75 and older. That is going to be the only age band that is growing in the workforce. So, how many of us have been planning for that 75-year-old work life, 100-year lifespan? And by the way, it's not just that we're living longer, but we're also living better. So, in a recent ARP and University of Michigan survey, 49% of people 70 and older said, my health is excellent to very good, right? And I'm sure you just think of aging, gray hair, decline, all the bad things that happen to you. But that's only for half. We have great diversity and a great spectrum. We also are great contributors to the economy, $8.3 trillion to the economy, $645 billion to charitable services, of which $600 billion is for caregiving. And my favorite number, which I think you'll appreciate, we spend $179 billion on our grandkids. Okay. So we are great, great contributors. And contrary to where we think older adults can't use technology, according to ARP surveys, the average 50 and older owns 7 devices. We spent 30% increase in technology spend in the last year. Okay, so we do spend it, and about 70% of people 70 and older actually own smartphones. So to say we can't do it, we just got to make sure it's designed, and I'm sure we'll get into that. So as I look forward, we spend so much of our time looking at the failure to thrive. But where I think family stories and where genealogy can sit is, can we chase the thrivers instead of the failure to thrive? So I think there's a picture of my dad up there. Is that up there? Okay, so everybody has their favorite dad, mom story. This is my dad. He is currently 96 years old. His first hospitalization was at age 19. His next hospitalization, he was 95. And in that period, he used to dance. There's that picture of him dancing at my nephew's wedding. He was about 91 years old. They cleared the dance floor. Okay. And then after, he came back home, he said, and I live in Boston, he lives in Pittsburgh. He said, okay, I got to take some dance lessons. He tried flamenco. It was a little too fast. So he's doing tap dance classes. All right. And then what happened is when he was in his early 90s, 91, 92, my mother developed lung cancer. And so there's my dad exercising because he said, oh my God, if she gets sick, I have to be able to pick her up. So he started exercising. I have to tell you, he had the best muscles and the best walking and, going up and down because he was going to care for my mom. And then finally, when she did pass away, it turns out she was his great communicator, his caregiver, which we are now taking over for her. And he couldn't hear. We'll talk a lot more about hearing in the panel. And because he couldn't hear and couldn't communicate, you know what we did? We got him an iPhone. He uses speech-to-text captioning. He now does Zoom. He does FaceTime. And that phone is hooked into his pocket because it is now his communication tool. So when there's a will, when there's interest, you absolutely can use some technology. So finally, when I look ahead, that's my dad. And we said, what were the characteristics? It isn't just healthcare. It just isn't education and transportation, all things we talk about. I think where you all can bring the value is, what is it that gives us that resilience, those personal protective factors? And we studied this to a great extent. We'll talk about this again in the panel. That to me, there are 3 things that really matter, which I think matter to you. 1, having a sense of purpose. What gets you up in the morning? That's associated with better health outcomes, better epigenetics at the molecular level for healthy aging, and lower healthcare costs. Number two, social connection. That is one of the most powerful things. And what do you do in genealogy? You create our family and our tribe. So that is such a powerful tool. And we know it's associated with health outcomes, with longevity, with longer telomeres, which are part of aging, and lower healthcare costs. And the third is a positive view of aging. And because you dive back into family and family histories, you are seeing all of the opportunities that growing older brings assets, brings wisdom, brings experience, and that's what you bring. So that's what I hope we bring, and that we will stop talking about aging in place. We'll talk about thriving in motion, what gets you up in the morning, who you do it with can open up your possibilities for the future, whether you're 22 or 85. So I'm so delighted, and thank you for having us.
Well, we're going to take a quick break as we pull up our panel, and bear with us for a moment. Thank you.